So I'm here with Berin Stockil. Berin,
Hi.
great to have you with us. And
Nice to be here.
I'm currently in Zimbabwe, and that's where Berin is from. And we've just had a weekend of ministry here in Marondera in Zimbabwe. And I'm just wanting the viewers to just get a sense. Often I'm asked the question when people hear that we come to Zim, what's going on in Zim, how the people survive the whole land grab thing. And it's always best to hear from someone who had to endure that kind of experience. And so, Berin, don't you want to just kind of share with us, just a little bit of your history? You're born here, grew up on a farm, and just to build up the change of government, building up to the land grabs.
I'm 64 years old. I've been in Zimbabwe all my life. My dad farmed here. My grandparents farmed here. We've been a generation of farming. And so in 75, when I left school, I was drafted into the army for 8 years. So I did 8 years of quarter. And then in 1980, the government changed. We settled down, started farming. It was all fine. It was all good. And then I got married in 82, 83. And I worked for a farmer for a few years, and then I went back to my dad's farm, and everything was fine. And then in 1989, it was time for me to move on and build something for my family. And a farm came up for sale. It used to belong to my grandfather, and there was a black owner on that farm at that time. And I asked if I could buy the farm, and then I tried to raise the money. I couldn't raise the money, and he said to me, why can't you pay? I said, well, I haven't got the money. He said, what's the problem? I said, I haven't got title deeds or collateral. So he said, oh, well, here's the title deeds. Go and get the money from the bank, and I will let you take the title deeds, put them down, get the collateral for the farm, and do what you wanted. So I borrowed 460,000, paid him his 200,000, and but prior to that, I'd said to the Lord, if you give me this farm, I will always do a work for you, because at that time, because we didn't have anything, we were leaving to go to Australia, my wife and I, and we had 2 little children. So then the farm came about. We got the money. We started farming. I'm still farming there. We went through the land reform. It was a very difficult period of your life. It was a thing that you had to take one step at a time, and it was literally to have to feed your enemy and to love them to get through it. Otherwise, there's no ways that you would survive the onslaught of the aggressiveness of the land reform program. It was very hard on the employees and on ourselves as owners of the land.
So that things from talking about compensation eventually became land grabs. People were forced off their farms, right?
Yes, my neighbor also started farming same time as me. He'd gone to sell handed his title deeds to the government. They were going to pay him out, and within 1 week it all changed. He left with nothing. They took the farm. He left. He went to Australia. I stayed on the farm. Yes, it was. We were going to have some hope, get some money, and go and start again.
And then nothing.
Then nothing.
Yeah, and Berin, a lot of people came off those farms totally tormented. There were people beaten. There were people that were chased off. They left with literally nothing. It's difficult for us to understand, but I can only imagine how bitter and resentful and unforgiving people could become having endured that kind of thing. You spent your whole life building this asset up. This is your home. You're from here, and the next thing is like you're not welcome here, and everything you've built is now taken away in a moment.
Yeah, I would like to go back onto a twofold story there. because when you sit from our point of view, and we are the landowners and we've got money and we are farming, and then you've got the people that feel that they have the right to the land.
Yeah.
So there was a twofold thing there where people were bitter because they didn't have the land,
Okay.
and we were arrogant because we had the land. Can I put it that
Yeah.
way a little bit?
Yeah.
Or it was my right, maybe not arrogance, my right to own this land. So when you get those two things now you've got a conflict.
Okay. But now you, as farmers in Zimbabwe, having lost everything, I mean, it must have impacted you in one way or another. Lots of people got very, very bitter and resentful and angry. Obviously, people left the country. There's still many in the country who are still probably resentful and angry. But how did you as an individual endure that whole circumstance, come through that, still loving Jesus, still loving the people, which will be one of my questions just now, which we'll talk to, and still having a heart for the people of this nation?
Well, I think where a lot of problems come in is when you allow bitterness into your life over situations that you have no control over, that happen, and you find yourself in this situation all of a sudden, and now it's conflict, and the conflict got very ugly, and people were beaten severely, and not only white people but also black people, you know. So at the end of the day, there was this whole rhetoric of whose land this should be, and at the end of the day, it wasn't really about land. It was about politics.
Yeah, it always is.
And they used people, and people, if you offer anybody something for nothing, they're going to take it or want it. So then they had the right to take something.
Yeah.
So they wanted it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's how it played out.
Yeah. But as an individual, having come through this thing, and still loving Christ, still having a heart for the people, I can only appreciate that only Christ could do a work like that in someone's life, right?
Yes. Let me show you what happened one day. The war veterans pitched up at my house, and they said, "You cook me breakfast." They chased my wife out. They chased the servants out. They said, "You cook me breakfast." So I said, "All right, Lord, you've got to work. You've got to feed your enemy." So straight away I turned from anger, because the first thing is anger.
Yeah, being in the flesh,
to let me serve the Lord. And then now they wanted bacon, eggs, toast, coffee. So I cooked it.
Yeah.
I gave it to them, served it to them. They ate their breakfast and they left. And that was just the Lord. See, so because there was just, that was the stage for it to all go wrong. I'm not cooking you breakfast. That was the stage.
So being able to navigate all the stuff you have over the many years, we're like 20-something years down the road now. Would you say it's only Christ that's brought you to this place?
Without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, I know that it's only Jesus, because I promised the Lord that I'd always do a work for him on the farm. And I said, "Lord, if I leave here, how am I going to do this work I promised you?" So then, like, it's a ridiculous situation.
Yeah.
Because now you've been chased off, but you want to do a work for God, and it's like just hectic.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And so you're back on the land.
Yep.
And you still have a heart for the nation.
Yes.
You have a real burden for the black Zimbabweans who, in terms of the majority now of the population, are living in abject poverty. And your passion now, Berin, is to help these guys in agriculture.
Yeah, the Lord had spoken to me a few years back, and he'd shown me that what is the minimum amount of land that you need to feed a family. And it's 16 meters by 35 meters of agricultural land, which you can plant 52 lines of maize in,
Yeah.
and get 52 buckets of maize. 1 bucket a week feeds the average family for the week in Africa, in Zimbabwe. So at the end of the day, that was the first part that I did, and I went out into the communities. We went to the older women that had children from their moms and dads dying.
So like the very vulnerable of the
most
communities.
vulnerable out of the communities. Gave them a pack which cost $50 with some seed, and they planted it, and they come back, and this lady falls on her knees, and I said, please don't do that, you must get up and talk. And she said she just wants to thank me because she's been able to feed her family and give some maize to the community with that small piece of land. So I believe Africa can come out of poverty.
Of course they can.
And if they can't feed their families in Africa, then how is Africa ever going to?
Well, who is going to feed them?
Yes, who's going to feed them?
Yeah.
And what are they going to do?
Yeah.
See, so and it's proven that the Lord has shown them, not me, that you can feed your family on this very small piece of land.
Yeah.
And then the other thing the Lord showed me was to make a pivot, and I did the costing on the pivot, and it's about $2,000, and I said, Lord, you're asking me to do something that is $2,000 for people that earn $1 a day, if they're lucky.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had to deal with some things in my spirit to go and do that, because it's like ridiculous who does that. And I've made we designed on the farm with the labor a little pivot that can take 2 horsepower motor. It will do a hectare over 1.5 hectares over 7 days.
And this is solar powered.
And it's solar driven. It's got 9 panels with a pump on it, and they can feed their families and make a profit and change their lives if they so wish to do the will of the Lord. They've got to be in this for the Lord to give them the blessing. So we're working at village at a time at the moment with the people, and I've got a heart, and I do love the people, and I would like to see them be more prosperous and not be hungry.
If there's anyone who wants to get behind this project and be a part of what Berin is doing here in the nation of Zimbabwe and support this vision, the details are there for you to contact Berin so that you can be a part of what is going to take place in the future. And I believe even for this nation, the government's not going to take them out of their poverty, but something like this would be of incredible benefit to individuals and communities. And really through this, Berin, your heart is also being able to preach the gospel to these people and these communities.
The main tool for this whole project that I've done is to be able to have an entry point into any place in Africa through some form of irrigation for feed, to feed their family. To learn how to feed their family if there's poverty. And they've got a bit of opportunity. God can bless them.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Well, praise the Lord for that.
Yes, amen.
So, Berin, thanks so much, man, and trust that it's been a blessing to just understand a little bit about Zim and what's happened, and the encouragement that I take away from this is, even though Berin's endured such difficult hardship, as have so many other thousands of Zimbabwean farmers, yet because of Christ, you're still here, you're still on the land, and you still have a heart for the people of Zimbabwe. And we trust God going forward, that even as the government have failed the nation, that people realize that Jesus never leaves and he never forsakes.
And Jesus puts the government in power. We must support them until Jesus decides to change it.
Yeah, absolutely. And who knows what God will do
in
this precious land. Berin, thanks so much, and it's been a great blessing being together.